Don't forget to donate to the hashtag Daytona Dream 2019 GoFundMe for your chance in January to win one of these 3 Kevin Harvick diecast. Now enjoy the video. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get ready for regular season finale weekend from the Orlando Superspeedway. And for the final time this season, we bring you knockout qualifying for Division 1 of the Skittles Superspeedway Series, getting set for the final race of the regular season. Playoffs begin when the checkered flag waves for these Division 1 drivers on Saturday evening, and we will be determining the 8 drivers that will battle it out for Division 1 here in this season's chase for the championship. Now, coming into this race, I think we could say maybe 7 of the 8 drivers, we know who they are going to be, as we got some drivers leaving pit road. Right now, we know for absolute certain that Brady Burkhart and Ryan Butcher, 2-time winners this season, they are locked into the playoffs. And then currently, all in the top 12 in the point standings, 1-time winners Ashlyn Boyd, Trent Dunham, Sebastian Kukulon, Jessica Shelton, and Vance Caldwell. I think we can say that they are all locked into the playoffs. Right now, I think the question mark lies on last week's winner from Ricky Raceway, and that is Roger Ray. Now, Roger Ray managed to win the race, jumped up 11 spots in points. He is 18th in the standings coming into this race. He was able to leapfrog drivers like Jay Jefferson, Jose Mills, and right now comes into this weekend in the 8th and final playoff seed. But there are a couple of things that Roger Ray needs to worry about. First off, if drivers behind him like Jay Jefferson, Jose Mills, Seth Cole, Derek Hamill manage to go to victory lane this weekend, that would be their second win of the season. They would leapfrog him, and that would knock him out of the 8th playoff seed. Another thing he has to worry about is a number of drivers that are ahead of him in the point standings that haven't won yet this season. If they find victory lane this week, they would be ahead of him in points. Their win would count over his. So Roger Ray's got a lot of pressure coming into this race. So I think right at this current point in time, the thing he needs to worry about the most, try and win this race, or at least maybe try and pass Vance Caldwell or Jessica Shelton in the points. That's not going to be any easy task, as right now he comes into this race 21 points behind Shelton and 19 points behind Caldwell. But if either one of those two run into trouble, that could be a saving grace for Roger Ray. But you look here, and there are so many names that I look at that have potential with a win to get themselves a locked-up spot last minute in the playoffs. Drivers like Patrick Zick, he's 4th in the point standings. Laurent Lamount, who's 5th. Diego Yepes, 6th. JT Bryant, 7th. Cody Smart in 9th. Tristan Folks in 13th. Preston Plord in 14th. Carter Friesen in 15th. The car we're looking at right now, Matt Haas, he's 16th in points. J.J. Roberts, he's 17th in the standings. And there's a couple of other drivers that, with a win, could jump Roger Ray in points, like Austin LaPlante, Philip Goldberg, Riley Spurleytube, Shane Lake, and Jonathan Zorlin. Those drivers, it's not mathematically impossible for them to miss out on the playoffs with a win. So there's technically, if you look at it here, we've got about 26, 27 drivers that still have a shot of making the playoffs here. And right now, as I said, I think there's technically only 7 that are currently locked into the playoffs when the green flag waves here this week at Orlando Superspeedway. You may have noticed, no, you're not dyslexic. Or if you are dyslexic, they're going the right way. These drivers are turning right. They are going the opposite direction that they normally have gone all season long at the superspeedways we've gone to. So it makes Orlando so unusual. I've driven this track before online. It is very disorienting, to say the least. And these drivers getting a first-hand taste of this, and they're going to have to deal with that challenge in their attempt to make it into the playoffs, as well as right now top of the leaderboard would be Jake Rogers. Well, one thing we can't talk about anymore, and that is the streak. The streak of different drivers sitting on the pole. It came to an end last week at Ricky Raceway when Benny Watson snapped the streak at 27, becoming the first driver to sit on the pole more than once in a season. So the streak is over. We can't talk about it anymore. Looking here at Carter Friesen, who just jumped up to the top of the leaderboard with a 48.231, almost raced his way into the playoffs last week. Finished 5th at Riki Raceway, and Friesen comes into this race 15th in the points, so a win this week would put him into the playoffs. His teammate, Nathan Stapleton, became the first Otter Island Motorsports car to lock up a chase spot last week in the Division 2 race win at Riki. And as I stated earlier, this is the last time that you will see knockout qualifying for these drivers, because once the playoffs begin, we're just having the points races, no qualifying sessions. Derek Hamill now top of the board in the 32, and that's one of the drivers that Roger Ray has to worry about this week. Hamill comes into this race 32nd in points, but he's only 5 points out of 30th, and if he goes to victory lane for a second time this season, he would undoubtedly move back up into the top 30 in points and would leapfrog everybody, tying Ryan Butcher and Brady Burkhart for the number 1 seed as far as Division 1 is concerned for the playoffs. I mean, right now, I think for drivers like Seth Cole, like maybe even Jay Jefferson, Jose Mills, and Derek Hamill, it's a must-win situation. You need that second win to get you into the playoffs, because I don't think that any of those drivers will be able to accumulate enough points to be able to get past Roger Ray for that 8th and final seed in the playoffs. It's basically they have to win to get in. Right now, Derek Hamill, who has not, I don't believe, nope, he hasn't gotten a pole yet this season. Right now, he is top of the board. Philip Goldberg just ahead of him, right now second. Goldberg comes into this race 20th in the points, a win, and he would be in possible contention for a playoff position. Ryan Butcher's in this group. He did not have a good run last week, DNF'd at Riki, but having 2 wins certainly has its benefits, as he already knew he was locked into the playoffs. JT Bryant there in the 22. He's 7th in the points. He'd automatically get a playoff spot if he were to win this weekend. LaPlante there, he is 19th in points. He would probably get a playoff spot if he were to win. Diego Yepes, that blue car up on the outside line there behind Eli Bright. He's 6th in the standings. Had a great run last week. Finished runner-up to Roger Ray at Riki Raceway, but still needs that win if he's going to contend in the playoffs this season. Benjamin Miles going to come to pit road. There's Preston Plord at the tail end of this pack. Preston 14th in points, another driver that fits the criteria of needs a win, and he would probably be in the playoffs as well. A little pack back here with James Qualls, Cody Smart, Carter Friesen, Jake Rogers, and Patrick Sick. Leaves Sick and Friesen, the only 2 out of this group that with a win would put themselves in position for a playoff spot. Nope, Cody Smart as well. Cody Smart is 9th in points. There's Shane Lake, started on the pole last week. A couple of former winners there, Jay Jefferson, Jose Mills. They need to go to victory lane this week to get their second win of the season, to get themselves back into playoff contention. And last week, Jessica Shelton had a good enough finish to lock herself up a spot in the playoffs, regardless of what happens this week at Orlando. Right now, she is dead last on the charts in 40th. Jack Mitchell, they're in the 9. He's 30th in the points right now. Did not have a good run last week. Dropped 9 spots in the standings. Big group here with Johnny Gardner, Kyle Matthews. There's William Duncan. There's Zorlin, Haas, Folks, Spurlitube, Lamount, and right at the tail end of this pack is last week's winner, Roger Ray. Let's see what Rogers currently scored. Last time by, ran his fastest lap in 16th. This looks like it will be Derek Hamill that will be fastest here in this qualifying session. Goldberg, Duncan, Bright, Bryant, Haas, Gardner, Lamount, Spurlitube, and Folks right now holds the final spot. He just moved up to 10th that last lap with a 48.050. You see how these drivers are almost leaning on each other, almost in these 3-wide and 4-wide formations, and imagine what's going to be happening when they all take the green flag here. Folks did not improve his time, but at this point nobody else improved their time either to be able to knock him out of the top 10. William Duncan right now way up on the top of the track, but he is third fastest. DNF last week at Riki was in a big wreck. I think it was lap 17 or 18, I think it was. It was a really big wreck. So too was Kyle Matthews. Even Kyle Matthews went airborne at Riki Raceway. Right now he is 20th on the charts. At this point, the only Red to Racing Enterprises car that's yet to lock himself up in the playoffs comes into this race currently situated in the 26th position in points, so he would need a win and a lot of help. The session might be coming to a close. I saw Seth Cole up there, the 33, drafting with Jack Mitchell. Right now he's 27th. Another of the drivers that has won this season, but he needs a second win tomorrow night if he's going to have a shot of making it into the playoffs. Now Shelton managed to move up to 39th. She's no longer dead last. As there's the fastest car on track, Derek Hamill. And the session will close out with him in position number 1. So that's going to do it for the first round of qualifying. Hamill, Goldberg, Duncan, Bright, Bryant, Matt Haas, Johnny Gardner, Laurent Lamount, Riley Spurleytube, and Tristan Folks will all be battling for the pole position this week. And the rest of the grid will be set from 11th on down. Zorlin, Yepes, Friesen, Winkle, and Rogers will be your top 15, with Butcher, Taylor, Ray, Plord, and Matthews your top 20. Gone down through the rest of the results, and a couple of drivers that came into this race already locked in. Not exactly the best of qualifying results. Kukulon down there in 30th, and Vance Caldwell there 35th. Dunham in 38th, Shelton 39th, but as was proved last week with Roger Ray going to victory lane, it's not where he starts, where he finished. He started his race from 36th and finished with the win. So definitely not exactly a hindrance for those drivers. Plus the fact they know that regardless of what happens, they are going to be in the playoffs. So maybe this was strategy. Maybe they didn't want to go out there and set the fastest lap. Maybe they want to start at the back. We'll have to wait and see. But now we're getting ready for round 2 of qualifying. Who's going to grab the pole here this week at Orlando and lead the field in their regular season finale to the green? Well, last week we saw Benny Watson end the streak at 27 races, becoming the first repeat pole sitter, and that was in Division 2. We've got a 50% chance of it taking place 1 week later here in Division 1, as 5 of the 10 drivers that transferred into this second round of qualifying have had a pole this season. Laurent Lamount, the earliest of those, had the pole back at M&M Superspeedway. Eli Bright had the pole back at Dragonette. Following week at Madrid, it was William Duncan. Then back at Talladega Superspeedway, it was Philip Goldberg. And just a few weeks ago at Texas World Superspeedway, it was Tristan Folks who had the pole position. So out of the top 10 that have transferred in, let's find out where they all come into this race via the point standings. Highest right now would be Laurent Lamount. He was 5th in points coming into this race. Tristan Folks, 13th in the standings. Obviously, he would love good starting track position as he's trying to get himself a playoff spot with a win. Philip Goldberg, he's 20th in the points. Riley Spurleytube, 22nd. Eli Bright in 27th. Got to go a ways down then when we get to Derek Hamill in 32nd place. William Duncan down in 37th. JT Bryant, he is 7th in the standings coming to this race. And Johnny Gardner, he is 31st. One thing that I didn't talk about that we kind of should, this is going to be a heck of a points battle for the regular season championship as well. Between 3 drivers in particular, Ashlyn Boyd, Trent Dunham, and Brady Burkhardt. Those 3 come into this race separated by 6 points. 4 points back Trent Dunham, 6 points back Brady Burkhardt behind Ashlyn Boyd. All 3 of them former winners this season. Burkhardt a 2-time winner, Dunham and Boyd with 1 win apiece. All 3 knowing that they will be battling for the championship overall, but of course drivers want to prove their consistency as well and win the regular season championship, and that's going to probably be the best championship battle we'll have this weekend concerning regular season points, because of the fact that the battle between Fury Gamington and Jeff Scott over in Division 2. That has 30 points separation between those two. Actually, it's between Gamington, Stapleton, and Scott. 35 points separation between those two. 30 points back. Stapleton, 35 points back. Jeff Scott, and when you consider the most points you can gain in a race like this, I believe it's 57 points. And at only a 40-car field, odds not really in favor of anybody being able to dethrone Fury Gamington, but then again, stranger things have happened. And Fury Gamington has not really, no pun intended, been on his game. He has had bad performances in, I believe, the last 3 races. I know he had a poor run back at Zenjoltis, and then he DNF'd last week at Riki. Laurent Lamont's going to jump top of the board here, I'm certain of it, and yes, he does. 49.584. Laurent Lamont, at the beginning of the season, was the qualifying machine, always up in the second round of qualifying. He ended up eventually getting the pole at M&M Super Speedway. His finishes in the race, though, never really seemed to match his qualifying results. Then later on, as the season progressed, his qualifying results didn't get that good, and all of a sudden his finishes seemed to be better, and he jumped up into the top 10 in the points. He's 5th in the standings coming into this race. Now he seems to have found a little bit of a combination of both. Last week also had a great qualifying effort at Riki Raceway and still finds himself top 5 in the points. So Lamont obviously trying to get himself that victory, though. And if he does get that victory this week, he would be in the playoffs. And wow, 49.107, Riley Spurleytube to the top of the board. And he was the lead car in this draft, so that's interesting. Lamont behind him is 2nd, Hamill behind him is 3rd. Oh, we had a challenge there. That was JT Bryant, but not quite getting it as he's in Johnny Gardner's draft. Bryant up to 4th position. He ran a 50.7. What about this time? He's up to 5th again, still 50.721. Gardner up to 4th. Let's go back to this group of 3. This is the lap right here that's probably going to matter for the pole. Does Spurleytube hang on? Does Hamill take it? Yes, he does. 48.532. And Derek Hamill, whose goal is to get his 2nd win of the season, to snatch away a playoff position, a driver that comes into this race 32nd in points, looks like he will be starting on the pole unless they count this next lap. Right now, Lamont would be 2nd, Spurleytube would be 3rd. Closing in on Tristan Folks. I don't know if he's going to affect the lap times or not. Hamill now goes to the inside of Lamont, and that might be a defensive move to stop Lamont from getting a good lap here and taking the pole away from him. 8 seconds, 7 seconds, they'll hit the line, but I don't know if this lap gets counted. Does it? Yes, it does. And Spurleytube improved, but the other two did not. So Spurleytube, despite the improvement to a 6.37, still remains in 3rd. Lamont will still be 2nd, and it will now officially, I'm pretty certain, be Derek Hamill, who will be sitting, on the pole for the first time in his career. He joins the likes of Jessica Shelton, William Brock, and there's one other one, who is Ashlyn Boyd, I believe, who has had a win and a pole this season. And the session is
Drivers,
complete.
To your cars.
So Derek Hamill, a man on a mission. He wants that 2nd win. He wants to jump up into a tie for the number 1 seed by getting that 2nd win this week. And he will be leading the field to green alongside Laurent Lamont. Then it'll be Riley Spurleytube, Johnny Gardner, Philip Goldberg, your top 5. Bryant, Duncan, Haas, Bright, and Tristan Folks. That's going to be your top 10 for your starting grid for tomorrow night's race. Stay tuned. Later on tonight, we've got the Division 2 qualifying session for their final time this season. Tomorrow night, it is the Division 1 drivers determining their playoff grid. And then Sunday night, It's the Division 2 drivers determining their playoff grid, which will give us the 16 drivers to battle for 5 races in this season's chase for the championship. Hope you guys enjoyed this video of the qualifying session. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. And we will see you guys later on this evening for Division 2 qualifying from Orlando Superspeedway. Till then, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.